What's your thoughts on abortion?
Look, I wasn't prepared for this, but
Does God exist?
no.
Evidence, yeah, no, probably not.
Can I change my
Sure.
response? I don't know.
Yeah, I say
Agnostic?
the same. Don't know, maybe.
Are you guys copying each other, or
Sorry?
are you guys copying each other, or you
Makes a
don't
good
know?
point.
No.
Okay, cool. So, is it the lack of evidence?
It's a very complicated question. Rationally, a lack of evidence. In terms of faith, I wasn't brought up with any faith.
What about yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. I've had a few acid trips. I've met God a couple times, but I don't know. Evidence is not there for me.
Well, if I can say this, if I can give you a bit of a perspective. If you're searching for evidence, there's always going to be a whole ton of evidence, but depending on how you search, depending on what what kind of intention you have with searching, there are people who will continuously find so much evidence, but then it's never enough. So at some point, you've got to take a leap of faith and believe by faith. Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me. I don't think faith is a rational pursuit.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? So that maybe that's another perspective, because if you seek after God, you will find Him, you will find that evidence, but will you find every bit of evidence that you're looking for? No, because then we wouldn't need faith. We wouldn't require faith. Here's my next question. Ready? What's your thoughts on abortion?
Look, I wasn't prepared for this, but but I think there are situations where it's necessary, but it is a big moral issue. Yeah.
So what about you?
I think there's a line. But generally, most people that want an abortion, I feel like they have good reason to get an abortion, you know?
If I give you a statistic, tell me your thoughts on that after that, right? 99% of people who get an abortion is only because they don't want the responsibility.
Okay. Isn't because they don't want responsibility a good reason, though? Like, they don't feel like they have the capability to raise a child, then maybe they shouldn't, because they're going to raise a child into a bad situation or, poor economic situation or something like that, yeah.
Uh,
I heard your statistic.
So what are your thoughts? Well, I think it's this, right? If I give you that statistic, there's a reason why I share that. Because if they don't want the responsibility, then should the right get to a point where they are killing a baby?
Could you repeat that again, sorry?
So the reason why I share that statistic, people typically like to say, certain circumstances, it may be rape, it may be whatever it may be. There are different circumstances, I understand, right? The mother's life could be in danger. But about 99% of people who get abortion is because they don't want the responsibility. And so the question I'm asking is, does that right now override the life of the baby?
I mean, that's like kind of like a bigger question. That depends, like, at what point you draw the line of, like, when a baby is actually, like, alive or something, right?
So at about 4 weeks, he has a heartbeat.
Okay. So if that's your line, I guess before that it's fine, then after it's not. But, like, I guess everyone's line is different. Yeah.
Oh, well, the only reason why I share that is because most people say, when a baby is living, then that's where they draw the line. So typically between 4 to 6 weeks, that's when the baby has a heartbeat. So what are your thoughts on that?
Living is it's really grey, isn't it? It's a solid argument though for pro-life. Absolutely.
Okay, so beautiful. What is a woman?
Someone with two X chromosomes.
You're getting into some deep waters there, man. What about yourself?
Oh, I don't know. Probably, I don't know, about the same.
Well, biologically, someone with two X chromosomes. In terms of socially, I don't want to comment on that.
Why? Do you think that the world and social media has desensitized people to a point where they're so fearful of speaking certain things?
To some extent.
Okay, what about yourself?
Yeah, probably, absolutely, yeah.
So if we flip truth upside down and we say people can feel whatever they want, I do understand that to a degree. But when people force their beliefs on other people and say, this man is a woman, biologically we know that that's not true, right?
I think biologically we can draw a solid line there. Socially, I'm agnostic.
I mean, do you have to be a Christian to know that there's a difference between men and women? It doesn't really matter about your religious background, it's more about facts, you know what I mean?
There's a biological aspect and there's a social aspect. Biologically, there's genetics, that's solid. Socially, I don't know. Yeah.
What if the social aspect contradicts the biological aspect?
That's the area for new people to come up with new ideas.
That's
And
awesome.
I don't know if they're going to happen on the street in Fortitude Valley, but yeah.
Thank you so much. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with them. I think, say someone chooses or feels like they're born a woman and they're biologically a man, then that's a really serious decision that they've gone through. That's a really full-on, I don't want to say choice, but path they've gone down, right? So to say that it's purely genetic, I don't think is the 100% the right call.
Well, you've got people who want to identify as, for example, there's a guy on, you can look it up on YouTube, I don't know exactly what the link is, who says, he's a white male,
Yep.
and he wants to identify as a Filipino woman.
Oh, well, that brings race into it. That's a bit different.
What was that, sorry?
I mean, changing race is a different thing. I think that's a bit ridiculous.
But why is that ridiculous and changing a gender not ridiculous?
Because
What if I want to change, what if I want to identify as a 60-year-old when I'm only a 30-year-old? Like, where do we draw the line?
I don't know, man.
So I think my point is, when does it become ridiculous?
It's somewhat arbitrary, and that's we've had this era of gender roles, men, women do this, and now we're swinging this way, and we need to find somewhere in the middle where it's not so arbitrary, but there are still people who have gender dysphoria, and we need to accommodate them as well, I think.
Good answer, yeah.
I also think this issue, I guess the current zeitgeist of conversation is talking about these things, right? But it actually affects such a tiny, minuscule amount of the population that, I don't know, maybe it shouldn't be a topic of political discussion. It actually isn't that as big a deal as people say. Let people identify how they want to identify, and it doesn't really affect everybody. It's become a political hot topic, but I don't think it's as big of an issue as people say.
I get what you're saying, but if I can add this to the conversation, they push this in schools now where transgenders and drag queens are going into schools and they are teaching children at such a young age about homosexuality and the LGBT community. Do you think that this is something that should be taught to 5-year-olds?
Maybe I don't see the issue with normalizing LGBT within 5-year-olds, but I don't think necessarily they're actually going to grasp the topic fully. Maybe save it for later on when they can actually understand kind of a more worldly view of it rather than a 5-year-old. But I don't really see the harm in it, to be honest with you. I don't think a gay person talking to a straight 5-year-old is going to turn them gay. I don't think that's true.
Do you think that's a topic that parents should be talking to their children about?
In a general sense, I would say, yeah, they probably should discuss it with them. But I think children are much more open to ideas than adults because we've already formed this rigid point of view. But children, if you say, oh, this girl loves this other girl, they're going to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I know what love is. Yeah.
What if I want to talk to a child about pedophilia?
What about it?
So would that be okay for me to talk to a child about pedophilia and say that it's okay and whatever my view is? At some point, as you were saying before, does it get a bit ridiculous? Do we draw a line somewhere? We're teaching 5-year-olds that drag queens are normal and men loving men, women loving women. If they want to feel that way, that's totally their life. But why impose it on children?
I'm not sure. You've kind of brought up.
I think there's a delineation to make between transgender and pedophilia. Like pedophilia, implicitly you're doing something to another person that isn't you. If you're transgender and you're doing stuff with other people or to yourself, you're not actually, molesting a child or something like that. I think we should make a delineation there. Other than that, I have nothing else to say.
It's kind of like, it's a massive shift between, you're learning math, science, health or whatever it may be at school. It's a big shift from those topics, learning English or whatever it may be, to teaching people about homosexuality. Do you see what I mean? I don't think people want to send their children to school to learn about homosexual lifestyles, because they don't teach about heterosexual marriage. They're not teaching those things. They're there to learn about science, about health, about English, about maths. So shouldn't there be a line there?
I don't know. That's kind of a big question. I don't know. I guess you could generally make a line between learning about those kind of lifestyles, sure. But I don't think, at the end of the day, I don't think the harm is there. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think if someone's going to be gay, they're going to be gay. Someone telling them you should be gay is not going to make them any different. Yeah.